Super Prime Time.
And while there is politics around this entire issue, for the moment, at least in the first half of the show, we're going to focus around the significance of today's development and how this is a very, very important moment. To talk about that, I have with me Dr. Anand Ranganathan, author. Bhavya Roy is with me. She's an author as well. Shantanu Gupta also joins us, an author. Ratan Sharda, author, is with us. Rahul Ishwar is an activist who is with us. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I'm going to begin the discussion by asking you, and this is not really a debate in that sense, but more a discussion as to the significance of today. The Prime Minister talks about reclaiming India's civilizational glory, its cultural importance, and today's development and today's inauguration is very, very significant from that point of view, because this completely changes the way we look at some of our most important places of worship.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. It indeed is a momentous day, no doubt about it, and the Mahakal Lok corridor, as it is called, doubtless is a beautiful addition to our civilizational heritage. It will enhance pilgrim comfort, increase tourist footfall, heighten the aesthetics of the entire experience of visiting what is one of the holiest places for a Hindu, a temple that is a keeper of one of the 12 sacred Jyotirlingas. I know I would be pilloried for saying all this, and yes, you may say that I, as a Darwinian atheist, have no right to comment on what is a Hindu celebration. But I assert that this is not just a religious issue, it is a civilizational issue. This same temple was demolished by the Islamic barbarian Iltutmish, according to historian Mehendale. He took the Jyotirlinga back to Delhi and broke it and scattered it on the steps of a mosque so that Muslims could trod on it. Imagine one of the most sacred possessions of a people meeting this fate. To me, Madhav, the mark of a civilization is this unquenchable thirst of man to demand justice for his ancestors, to correct a historical wrong. For that exemplifies a continuity, an idea, a memory that can never be erased, that is worth fighting for and preserving. It makes justice greater than the sum of its parts. And that is why a civilization is not fleeting like an empire. To demand justice for a people who are dead for hundreds of years, it is almost as though you can feel their pain, their suffering, their destruction that has transcended the limits of body and time. And that is why history is a medicine, why catharsis is a cure. And today, when I see Hindus wishing to reclaim Kashi or Mathura or rejuvenating Mahakaleshwar, I see this as a catharsis, as a deliverance of justice to my ancestors who are wronged. This concept of striving to correct historical injustice is vital, Rahul. Now just, Madhav, just give me 30 seconds. It's very important. Second issue. Hindus must not feel grateful or obliged to the state for revitalizing Mahakaleshwar. It is just a fraction of their money coming back to them. This temple, its revenue, its land rent and evaluation, like 113,000 temples before it, is under state control through the Mahakaleshwar Mandir Act 1982. Last year, this temple earned as much as 81 crores. It could have earned 5 times that amount had the temple government evaluation of temple land and property not been faulty like it is for thousands of temples. The government, Madhav, controls the temple revenue. It snatches with one hand, then gives with another, and Hindus feel happy. Real civilizational renaissance would come when state control of Hindu temple ends. But does any government, including this one, have the guts to relinquish control?
Well, very, very important point that you've raised as far as temple control is concerned. But for the moment, and we will discuss that issue in the course of this discussion. But Bhavna Roy, I want to come to you on a very important point that was touched upon by both the Prime Minister and even, of course, to some extent by Dr. Ranganathan, when they refer to Ujjain itself and its own importance. And each of these temples where we've seen, huge developmental projects take place to make, not just the pilgrimage easier, but also, of course, provide very basic facilities, many of which people would say that of centers of ancient learning such as Ujjain should have been done years ago, if not decades ago.
I so agreed and resonated with Mr. Anand's statement. He said history is medicine. I would say history can be medicine. It can also be poisoned very often. It is so thrilling. It is so thrilling, civilizationally thrilling, this moment. At one end, it's about bhakti, it's Aastha. At another end, it is a beautiful confluence of devotion and science. Ujjain is an ancient city that at one time was the home of the zero meridian. It was the reference point for calculation of time. Today it's a brass strip. in Greenwich, the Royal Observatory. But it was Ujjain for a Hindu Panchang. It is so to this day, our lunisolar calendar uses Ujjain as the zero meridian to this day, and is compared to the popular Gregorian calendar as well as the Islamic calendar. Our lunisolar calendar is to this day the most precise calendar on the planet.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, I want to take that question across to Dr. Ratan Sharda as well. Dr. Ratan Sharda, you know, we have seen how the Prime Minister has been to Somnath. We've seen the Kashi corridor redevelopment. We've seen the Kedarnath redevelopment. And Ujjain, you know, at least of the 12 Jyotirlingas, 4 we've seen such mega developmental projects. What is it that you would look forward to in coming days? Because the Prime Minister himself also referred to several of those important shrines through the course of his speech, which I'm sure you would have heard. He refers to Rameshwar and refers to several of the important places of worship, and also about the need for some kind of a cultural revival. He says that the spiritual revival of a country is very, very important for it to achieve the heights that it can.
See, I will give you one example how things have changed. This is the change, this is the renaissance that Swami Vivekananda visioned. This is the renaissance that Maharishi Aurobindo envisioned. This is the renaissance that we all expected when Somnath was resurrected. But see the difference, when Somnath was resurrected, we had the Prime Minister of India saying that don't do this, it will revive Hindu, Hindu revivalism, because he thought, so if a good Muslim can be, a religious Muslim is good, a religious Christian is good, a religious Parsi is good, but religious Hindus, oh, no, no, no. So Dr. Rajendra Prasad paid a very heavy price. When he died, Sardar Patel was asked not to go for his funeral. That is a kind of culture we had at this time, where we negated our roots, we negated our civilization, we negated every plus point of a civilization which has refused to die despite all the invasions. So we have all the great civilizations, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greek, all died, but India did not die, Bharat did not die, because we have deep roots. We refused to give up resistance. We kept on fighting to keep our dharma alive. That is a symbol that Ujjain today is. Do we know? I can bet that majority of viewers don't know that Ujjain is the intersection point of zero meridian that is mentioned in Surya Siddhant 4 BC with tropic of Cancer. That is why it is called Navi of the globe. All our calculations came from Ujjaini. That is why the Jyotirling here is called Mahakal. That is the Lord of the time. That calculation, the mastery we had over time calculation, is the proof that for us spirituality and science interacted very well. They were not separated. We were not afraid of science. We in fact embraced science. So I generally say that our point of view depends on the standpoint. So when you sit on the Greenwich zero meridian, we look at India from the Western perspective. That's what Nehruvians did. And when we look at India sitting on the zero meridian of Ujjain, we look at India, its glorious past, its glorious knowledge system, its wonderful spirituality, the sense of oneness. When Narendra Modi ji talked about these various places of worship and tirtha, we know that our spiritual integration, our geographical integration of Bharat as one country was actually nurtured by these tirthasthans. So somebody from Rameshwaram would have to go to take the water to go to Kashi Vishwanath. Somebody had to visit Kashi Vishwanath, carry the water of Ganges to Rameshwaram. So right. This strength we have. So somebody going from Somnath right up to Guwahati to Shakti Peeth, this strength has to be revived. This is our lifeblood. This is where India will stand. We are the only country where after 75 years we have people debating what are we?
Right.
Are we a nation born in 1947 or a nation with 10,000 years of documented history? It may be more.
Right, absolutely. And in fact, Rahul Ishwar, I just want to take off from that point of view of, our spiritual centers, which the Prime Minister referred to. And it's very important. The Prime Minister referred to not just Hindu centers, he referred to Sikh shrines such as Hemkund Sahib, Kartarpur Sahib. We know the Prime Minister has been to Shravana-Belagola. So he's really talking about the spiritual tradition of this country, beyond any one system of belief. And that is very, very important, because these are the very basic building blocks of our values, the way we live our life and our culture.
And regarding India and Indian culture, I believe some of the best lines are by Muhammad Iqbal when he says, "Yunan o misr o Roma, sab mit gaye jahan se, ab tak magar hai baki, naam aur nishan hamara." कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिट्टी नहीं हमारी सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे ज़मान हमारा. Echoing what Ratan Shalda ji said, the Greeks, the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians, they have all perished. But India as a civilizational force, as a culture, as a tradition, have survived the test of time. And that is the greatness of India. That's what makes India Vishwaguru. And as Madhav ji rightly pointed out, PM is in an all-encompassing attitude, spoke about the different nuances of culture. About the great Jain culture. Earlier he was inspiring the Buddhist circuit. And this is what the great Hindu tradition or Ashabharata Sanskriti is all about. So unless we remember our history and heritage, we are doomed to fail. And yes, we had a Nehruvian system in which even Rajendra Prasad ji was prohibited from going to the Somnath temple earlier, or even when Sri K.M. Munshi and Sardar Patel wanted to rejuvenate the temple, the Nehru ji opposed, but it was Mahatma Gandhi's centrist point which made it possible. So we want to have that cultural renaissance, ethical renaissance, the dharmic renaissance, which will revitalize not only spirituality, culture, learning, science, economics too. See, this will all facilitate proper footfall. It will increase tourism, spiritual tourism, religious tourism, cultural tourism, and you will have a sense of belonging. Unfortunately, with the Macaulay's education or later the pseudo-secular education, there is not a sense of belonging to the majority community and major of Indians. That sense of belonging to our culture, taking a pride in our culture should be there. And please remember, a totally Islamic nation, Egypt, some months back even were showcasing their pharaohs and showcasing their pyramids, because that is their root. They cannot forget their roots, whichever religion you belong to. So beyond religion, we have a civilizational identity, we have a cultural identity, we have history and heritage with us, and it is a duty bound of every Indian beyond religion to celebrate that great culture. And for example, take the case of Indonesia, the largest Muslim nation. They even celebrate Ram. They have Garuda Indonesia. In India, it will be called communal. They have Bank Ganesha. In India, it will be called communal. They have Ganapati in their currency note. In India, it will be branded communal. So you have to celebrate the civilizational aspect. Unless we remember our history and heritage, our sense of identity would not be there.
Well, absolutely. Civilization, history, identity and culture all are inextricably linked. Dr. Ranganathan, I see your hand going up, but I quickly want to bring in Shantanu Gupta. Because Shantanu, many would see this as, a part of a long series of, announcements by the government. We've seen, for instance, the Char Dham announcement, the government wanting to link all of these very important shrines, the holiest perhaps in the Hindu faith, by road. We've seen various other projects that have been announced in the past. So it's not just one standalone project. There are several such projects that have been put into motion, and perhaps we are just seeing the results of one of them today.
And there are many completions also, Madhav, that we have seen. We have seen how Kedarnath is rejuvenated. We have seen how Kashi corridor, Ayodhya, what's happening. We know the Mathura corridor because we live very near to that. Mathura corridor work is there. And today we have seen the Mahakal Ujjain corridor, right? And I will extend what Ratanji was saying. Just a couple of years back, yoga was communal in India when Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the same Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan, tried to implement yoga as a mandatory practice in all the government schools. It was called, no, yoga is communal. Now more than 200 countries are celebrating yoga. So I think the soft power of India, within India and outside India, is being pressed upon, which is the right point. And just a point to Rahul spoke very amazing, Rahul Ishwar. But again, please don't quote Muhammad Iqbal today. I think those lines, if you extend those lines, you'll find the real meaning of those lines. He was one of the closest eyed of Muhammad Jinnah. So I think don't spoil the happiness in this amazing movement, Mahakal movement, by quoting Muhammad Iqbal.
It's okay, it's okay. We can find a reason to celebrate the pluralism. I think it's in that context that Rahul Ishwar was talking about. But yes, Dr. Ranganathan, you want to come in?
No, very quickly, 2 points, Rahul. Sorry, Madhav. One is that, Rahul is a very good friend of mine. Everyone knows it. But sometimes, I hope he doesn't mind my saying so, he behaves like the other Rahul. I don't mean Rahul Shiv Shankar, I mean Rahul Gandhi.
I'm glad to clarify that.
As Shantanu absolutely said, today, of all days, he is quoting that communal bigot, Allama Iqbal, who said, I confess to be a pan-Islamist and my job is to remove idol worship from this world, to purge infidelity from the world, and today is quoting Allama Iqbal. Please don't do that. Number two, I might be pilloried for this, but can I please say this? Of course, and I've already said, this is a beautiful day, beautiful occasion, but in one sense, it is also a day of, politicians saying, let them have cake. Let Hindus be happy with this. I ask you a simple question. What would a billion Hindus be happy with? Being thrown 300 crores and this wonderful corridor, or being given the key to the control of their own 113,000 temples, by which they can earn lakhs of crores of money, by which they can make tens of thousands of educational institutions, schools, colleges, more Hindu temples. Did you know last year High Court of Madras was told that there are 12,000 temples in Tamil Nadu that do not have enough money to even conduct one day's puja. This is happening in this land of Hindus. So this is again, I know it is a happy occasion. I don't want to spoil it and come out like a contrarian, but it is a fact. Why are exclusively only Hindus places of worship being controlled by the government? And the government every now and then throws hundreds of crores towards Hindus, and Hindus feel all happy and elated, whereas they are losing out on lakhs of crores. Think.
Okay, important point. Two very important points, and I'm going to allow Rahul Ishwar, since both the previous panelists referred to him and what he said earlier. Rahul Ishwar, 2 points. Your reference to Allama Iqbal and also the fact that temples need to be free. That's something that you have also campaigned about in the past. Your response.
First of all, I know I agree with the sentiments of Shantanu and Anandji. Anandji knows I am a huge fan of him. So I would not even tell about the first point. But the second point he raised is very important. Please remember, all the viewers who will listen to this, see, this is a real problem. See, let me be very honest in saying this. Kerala's communist government and Devasam board took money from Sabarimala to argue against the very Sabarimala and the Honorable Supreme Court. We have been facing that, and we have been left with, say, average lawyers, or maybe, middle, somewhere around the middle lawyers. We couldn't afford a Harish Salve, not because Sabarimala didn't have money. Sabarimala had crores in its coffer. Well, that per year it is getting around 150 to 155 crore rupees. But the leftist government took the money from the Devasam board to argue against the very deity and the very institution they are supposed to safeguard. So this really happened. There is a very serious issue. The control of Hindu temples beyond the secular government coming back to the Hindu devotees and deities, an extremely important point. Otherwise, this is an institutional chain that we are in. Whether it is the Guruvayur, whether it is Sabarimala, this is a very serious trouble that we are fighting. And unless that control is given back to Mukt Karo temples or free Hindu temples, whichever name you want to call it, and it was back in, especially in Kerala's context, back in 1812, that Colonel Munro, through a very cunning move, wanted to so-called take over all the temples, because he understood temples were the centers of Hindu power, civilizational power. They were uniting against the British through temples. So he cunningly took in the name of maladministration. The similar thing is being followed even today in India.
Right.
The so-called secular government, because they want to control. That control should be given back to the devotee.
All right. Rahul has made a very important point. Just quickly getting a response from Ratan Sharda on this. Ratan Sharda, one of the BJP governments, at least in Karnataka, had announced earlier this year that they would in fact go ahead and implement this freeing the temple campaign that had in fact been raised by several activists, including Rahul Ishwar and others. But in terms of actual action on ground, we've not seen that actually materialize. I don't want to take away and sidetrack from today's larger debate, but this is certainly an issue that, since many of our panelists have raised an issue of concern, how do you see all of this finally panning out on ground? Because there are a number of legal and other hurdles also that will have to be cleared.
See, Madhav, I have been one of the earliest ones who has been speaking against the temple control of the government. But to my mind, I'm quite sure, I'm very calm about it. I will not use any bitter words. I am quite sure that before 2024, we will find the change. We will find some laws coming into place to give Hindus better control on temples. I am not saying free or what, I don't know. But I am very sure before 2024, we will see that change also. Let us be calm. Let us believe. Let us trust Modi, because he has done so many things for Hindu civilization which are not even supposed to be possible. And he has gone ahead and done it. So I am very sure this will also happen, because there are many things that need to be ironed out before that happens, and it will happen. So let us keep calm and not be bitter on this day. When you are seen, I am not happy because somebody threw some 100 crores. I am happy because Renaissance has started, despite all the naysayers, despite all the bitter battles, despite all the bitter debates that keep on happening on Indian TV sets, whenever there is anything to do with Hindus, because doing something good for Hindus does not mean doing bad for any other religion. If I can be a good Muslim, I can be a good Christian, why I can't be a good Hindu? As simple as that. So it is our right. Nobody is doing any favor, but this government took up the cudgel. Nobody else did it. This government did it. So at least we should know that they respect our sentiment, they understand our feelings.
Right. A lot being said, and I think that's very well articulated. In fact, let me bring Bhavna Roy into that debate. Bhavna, you're an author, and while many have said that just a few 100 crores being thrown is perhaps more symbolic than anything else, but as Ratan Sharda says, somebody has done it. Very famously, V.S. Naipaul had called India wounded civilization. There's a book to that effect, as you would very well know. Do you think that today there is some balm on those wounds?
Before I answer that question, Madhavji, I would like to hark back to the reference to Muhammad Iqbal, appropriately objected to by everybody when Rahulji mentioned. Beautiful though that those lines are, let me segue into Meghdut of Kalidas ji from the 5th century AD, who, Kalidas ji talks about this beautiful name, which is the Doot, to the Yaksha, the pining Yaksha, sitting on a mountain peak. And he uses this cloud to carry his longing and his love to his lover seated in the city of Alaka. And as the cloud travels through the terrain of Bharatvash, he describes the various cities and the features of nature that he observes. And the most beautiful description of the cloud was of the city of Ujjain, Avanti. We have other references in our literature to the beautiful city of Ujjain. Coming back to your question about wounds, they heal. It's a time of healing, as Ratan Sharda ji said. It's a time of celebration. Let's celebrate this moment.
Well, it's a time of celebration, certainly, and of course, very, very important. Let me bring in Shantanu Gupta on this. Where do you stand, Shantanu Gupta? Many saying that you heard Ratan Sharda as well as Anand Ranganathan. The view that has been expressed by some is that this is just more symbolic. There are much larger and very fundamental reforms that are required and changes that are required for Hindu faith and Hindus to actually realize their maximum potential. Where do you stand, Shantanu?
No, I'm saying I think it'll be a very dishonest statement that whatever happened in the last 8 years is just symbolic. I think to a student of politics like me, I always thought 370 will be a PhD topic. Removing 370 will be a PhD topic in TV debate, but we see the truth today. I always saw CAA, Ayodhya, International Yoga Day, Triple Talaq will be all debate topic, Nibandha topic, and we'll be all done with it. I think, and I see the impatience in Anandji, and I think that impatience is there because finally we realize there is a government which can do something about it. And I'm saying things are happening. In Uttarakhand, almost 51 temples are freed. Now it's a topic. 10 years back, a normal person didn't know even the topic like UCC, 370, temple control. Now it's a part of public debate, and I'm sure everyone, including Anandji, knows the intricacies involved. And I think within a couple of years, we'll see movement towards that also. I'm hopeful.
All right, you're hopeful that we will be seeing movement towards that. I'd like to thank all our panelists for joining us on debate number 1. Certainly a very, very momentous time at the moment. This is certainly, of course, a moment that the whole country's eyes really are on at the moment. And in fact, at the moment, we will, in fact, all right, let me just quickly, in fact, bring in Rahul Ishwar on this point. Rahul Ishwar, where are you seeing these moves of the government? We saw the Prime Minister's speech today. What exactly are you hoping for in terms of further reforms? Of course, temple and control of temples is something that we have spoken about. Where are you hopeful that things will now pan out, and what are the reforms that you are looking forward to?
Centers of culture, civilization too. So they wanted to control the temples and destroy because they know it will wound the civilization. It will hurt the people and it will destroy the entire spiritual paradigm that we have. So hopefully there will be more growth in this area. We will see more closer to rejuvenation of cultural spaces. And like Anandji, I am also a bit impatient, but I respect Shantanuji's work. Yes, we are moving towards that. Nobody can deny that. Even in Uttarakhand, we saw protests and the government also accepting the position. But please remember, there are many spaces where there are strongly anti-Hindu parties in the name of secularism is ruling it. We were all jailed for many weeks altogether because we were protesting for our rights under Article 25. So there are issues in many other spaces, especially including in South India, where Tamil Nadu is a land of temples. Temples are still under the government shackles. And even in a place called Tamil Nadu, where their official state emblem is a temple, the temples are still under the atheistic control in the name of progressivism. So we have to move structurally too. Yes, cultural, civilization artistic, spiritual revival is absolutely needed. It will give us momentum. But to the structural, policy-wise change too, there is a long section of devotees who are longing for it. And we all know, beyond politics, I like Modi ji, but beyond politics, we all know if there is a person who can deliver, that is Modi ji. Especially with his thought and vision, I hope that will be materialized in the coming years.
All right, Rahul Ishwar, Ratan Sharda, Shantanu Gupta, Bhavna Roy and Dr. Anand Ranganathan, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this evening and expressing very candidly your views on an issue that is very significant and certainly, of course, with the Prime Minister's presence there showing the indication of which way this government is headed. And also, of course, very interestingly, some of the secular parties that you referred to, Rahul, are today actually claiming credit for this very project, and that shows the importance perhaps that this very moment has, not just in terms of our spiritual traditions and cultural traditions, but also how far the political goalposts have really shifted as far as this country is concerned. And that's going to be the next debate that we are going to be having in just a few minutes.